and welcome to Dr. G's Technique of the Week, Precalculus Edition.
We're going to be plotting some points on the xy coordinate plane, seeing how to find the distance between 2 points on the plane, and seeing how to find the midpoint of the line that connects 2 points in the plane. So let's start with plotting. We're going to plot the points -3, 1 and 4, -3. Remembering that our x-coordinate is our horizontal coordinate, that comes first in our coordinate pair. Our y-coordinate, or our vertical coordinate, comes second in our coordinate pair. So if we look at -3, 1, we go to -3 on the x-axis, 1 up 1 in the y direction, and there's our point. And for 4, -3, we'll go to +4 on the x-axis, and then -3 in the y direction to find our point there. Now our first question is how to find the distance between these 2 points. In other words, if we were to connect these 2 points with a straight line, how could we find the length of that line? And the answer is to use a tool that is really familiar to us from previous math courses, the Pythagorean theorem. If we draw a right triangle whose hypotenuse is the line whose length we want to find, then we can use the Pythagorean theorem to find that length, just given the length of the legs of this right triangle. Now, if this first point is x1, y1, and this second point we'll call x2, y2, just to make it as general as possible, we can find the height of this right triangle by finding the difference between the y coordinates. So in this case, y1 minus y2, and I'll put that in absolute value because we could have a situation where y2 is bigger than y1. If I want to find the length of the base of this triangle, that's just the difference between my 2 x coordinates. In this case, x2 minus x1, so it matches. Just put x1 minus x2 and put it in absolute value, so we'll get a positive result, even though in this case x2 is bigger. Now, if we recall from the Pythagorean theorem, the sum of squares of our 2 legs is equal to the square of the hypotenuse. So in this case, our 2 legs are x1 minus x2, so we can square that, and y1 minus y2, so we'll square that as well. And I'm going to call the hypotenuse now d for distance, since we're trying to find the distance between those 2 points. Now if I want to solve this for d, all I have to do is take the square root of both sides, and that'll give me my one unique answer, since the distance has to be a positive number. And that gives us our distance between these 2 points, d, as the square root of x1 minus x2 squared plus y1 minus y2 squared. Now take a moment to pause the video and try this out for the 2 specific points that we have plotted here, -3, 1 and 4, -3, and see if you can find the distance between those 2 points. Alright, hopefully you got as your answer the square root of 65, but let's go through that derivation together. Now that we have this distance formula, we can just put in our values for x1, y1, x2, and y2 from our 2 points. So in this case, our distance will be the square root of -3 minus 4 squared plus the difference between our y coordinates, 1 minus -3 squared. And now I just want to slowly simplify this. -3 minus 4 is -7, so this is -7 squared. 1 minus -3 is 4, so this is 4 squared, which gives me the square root of 49 plus 16, or the square root of 65. Now I promised to also talk today about finding the midpoint of a line between 2 points on the xy plane. So let's do that for the same 2 points that we've already seen. In other words, if we look at this line segment connecting our 2 points, red and blue here, how can we find the point that cuts it perfectly in half, that is exactly halfway along that line segment? And the way to do this is to just find the average of the x coordinates. That'll take us halfway in between horizontally. And the average of the y coordinates, that'll take us halfway in between vertically. For our 2 points then, our midpoint, we want to take the average of the 2 x coordinates. Remember, finding the average of 2 points, we just add them together and divide by 2. So this is going to be x1 plus x2 over 2. And our average of our 2 y coordinates will be y1 plus y2 over 2. For our particular 2 points that we're looking at in this example, go ahead and pause the video now and try and find the midpoint between the two using this formula. The midpoint of this line is 1/2 -1. If that's not what you got, let's look at the derivation of it now. Our x coordinates for these 2 points are -3 and 4. So we'll have -3 plus 4 over 2 for the average. Our y coordinates are 1 and -3, so we'll have 1 minus 3 over 2 for the average. Now if we simplify this, -3 plus 4 is +1, and 1 minus 3 is -2. So we get 1 over 2, -2 over 2, and of course this y coordinate will then simplify to -1. So our midpoint will be 1/2 -1, and we can verify on our graph that that seems reasonable by going to 1/2 -1 here. And there's our midpoint. Now it's time for you to get some practice with these new ideas. See you next time on Dr. G's Technique of the Week.